My name is Kayla, 29 years old, and I never thought I'd be the one to flip the table on my family's smug dinner. For years, they painted me as the failure scraping by with real estate gigs driving a beat-up Honda while they flashed their shiny lives. Then came the night my mom sneered across the plates. "You're too stupid to live here, get out." My sister chimed in. "Nose wrinkled smells like poverty." I stood glass steady and dropped one line that froze them cold, then let this poor person take back their $100,000. Before I get to my story, I want to know what time and what city you are listening in. I'm happy to know how far my story goes. 3 hours earlier, a text from Mom hit my phone sharp, no warmth demanding dinner at that Capitol Hill spot, 7:30. We hadn't talked in months, her last jab still burning. I could have skipped it, but something pulled me. Drove through Seattle rain, pulled up in my Honda, walked into their trap on my terms, plain blouse, no show. They sat Mom at the head, siblings smirking. She checked her watch. Still late, still useless. But that morning I'd mapped it all out in the quiet of my home office, rain tapping the window like impatient fingers. The laptop screen glowed with the foreclosure filing for the Brooks family home in Ballard, Mom's pride, the 4-bedroom they'd closed on last year with my silent backing. $100,000 down payment wired clean from my first big flip profits, no questions asked when she called it a family favor. Now the doc stared back, stamped with default notices after months of skipped interest payments she blamed on tight markets. I scrolled through the liens, the equity she'd burned on Courtney's new SUV and Jordan's law school loans. My thumb hovered over the print button. The phone vibrated. Garrett Hale, my real estate attorney, the guy who'd handled the paperwork on that deal, and half a dozen others without a whisper to anyone outside our circle. "Kayla, you sure about pushing this? They don't even know you're the lender of record." His voice carried that steady Seattle edge, the kind that came from closing deals in coffee shops during endless drizzles. "Not pushing," I said, leaning back in the chair that overlooked the gray sound. "Just collecting what's mine. Give them tonight one last shot to own up before the notice hits." He paused, then chuckled low. "Fair play. I'll have the demand letter queued in the app. Hit send when you're ready, and it's legally binding by morning. Eviction clock starts at 30 days, WA rules." We wrapped it quick, logistics on the wire transfer, reversal tax implications if they fought it. No drama on his end. Garrett knew the score from day one, back when I funneled the cash through his firm to keep my name off the mortgage. I closed the call and stood crossing to the closet where the old clothes hung like relics. Pulled out the faded blouse from college, the one that screamed, "struggling sibling," paired it with jeans that had seen better days. The Honda keys waited on the dresser. My daily driver, reliable in city traffic, even if the glove box hid titles to something faster tucked away in a garage across town. It was all theater, this downplay. Mom had drilled it into me young that showy meant weak, but tonight I'd use her own script against her. 6 years back, I'd tested the waters with my first house hack, a rundown duplex in Fremont, bought sight unseen with savings from odd jobs, and a loan Mom co-signed just to shut me up. "Real estate, that's for suits like your sister, not dreamers." She'd snapped over coffee, her laugh sharp as the steam rising from her mug. "Beatrice Brooks, queen of the open house circuit after Dad bailed, always quick to pivot my wins into flukes. That duplex flipped it in 8 months for triple-seated, the next deal, and the next quiet builds in a market that rewarded the patient." She'd dismissed every update as luck, never asking how the numbers stacked. Tonight, those stacks would topple her tower. By 6:30, I locked up and slid into the Honda engine, humming steady against the downpour. The wipers cut arcs through the water, sheeting the windshield as I merged onto I-5 Capitol Hill lights, smudging in the haze ahead. 7 o'clock sharp, I'd timed it to roll in just behind the reservation, letting the evening unfold on their terms first. The clock above the bar ticked to 7:20 as Kayla settled into the stiff chair at the far end of the table, her family's eyes already sharpening for the kill. Mom leaned forward, her gold watch catching the light from the pendant lamps. 29 years old and still dragging in late like some dead-end freelancer, she said, voice loud enough to turn heads at the next booth. Her sister, perched to Mom's left, swirled her Pinot Noir and smirked. What barely scraped enough for gas this week? The words landed like darts, each one a calculated jab at Kayla's patched-together jeans and faded blouse. Her brother, sitting opposite, shifted in his seat. His tie loosened just enough to signal discomfort, but not enough to intervene. Kayla kept her face blank, hands folded on the table, letting them dig their own hole. She'd planned this, let them spill every ounce of venom before she flipped the script. The server, a wiry guy with a sharp jaw, approached with a tray of waters. He set hers down with a deliberate nod, eyes flicking to hers in silent recognition. She knew him, Ronan Hale, one of the staff she'd kept on payroll when she'd bailed out this place 2 years back after a bad lease deal nearly tanked it. His glance said he knew the game she was playing tonight. Mom didn't notice, too busy waving at the menu. Look at this, real Italian, not the takeout slop you probably live on. She flipped it open, no prices listed, a flex of status. Courtney's killing it in marketing now, $80,000 a year, corner office by 35. And Jordan, youngest associate at his firm, already handling big environmental cases. She paused, eyes narrowing at Kayla. And you still chasing those little real estate flips? What's it called, freelancing? No wonder you're stuck with that Honda. Courtney leaned in, her diamond studs glinting. Bet you're still splitting rent with roommates in some Fremont dive. A couple at the next table glanced over, catching the edge in her tone. Jordan cleared his throat, muttering something about the appetizers, but didn't meet Kayla's gaze. She let the silence stretch, her pulse steady, watching Mom's smirk widen as she sipped her wine. Still freelancing, Kayla said, voice flat, baiting them. Must be tough, Mom shot back, scraping by while we're out here living? The table laughed, a brittle sound that carried to the bar. Ronan returned with a basket of focaccia, placing it near Kayla, with another subtle nod, his fingers brushing the edge of her glass. She caught it, confirmation he'd seen her name on the ownership papers, the ones that tied her to 55% of this restaurant's deed. The chatter around them dipped, forks clinking softer as nearby diners sensed the tension. Kayla stayed quiet, her eyes scanning the table, Mom's smug tilt, Courtney's curled lip, Jordan's fidgeting hands. She needed them to keep going, to lay every card out before she played hers. The server's nod had been the first crack in their facade, a signal the night was about to shift. The server swept in with plates of grilled salmon and risotto at 8 sharp, the steam curling up under the dim glow of the restaurant's pendant lamps. Kayla speared a bite of fish, her movement slow, deliberate, then leaned forward with a question she'd been holding like a loaded card. So, Mom, how's the new house treating you? Her voice was casual, almost sweet, but her eyes locked on like a hawk. Beatrice set her fork down, lips curling into a smug arc. Oh, it's a dream. 4 bedrooms, Ballard address, $400,000 locked in last spring. Took a $100,000 down payment to seal it. No thanks to your little side hustles. The jab landed sharp, and public, drawing a chuckle from the couple at the next table. Courtney jumped in her wine glass, tilting as she spoke. Yeah, Kayla, you'd never scrape together enough for a mortgage like that. Stick to your rentals. Her tone dripped with pity, the kind that begged for applause. Jordan shifted in his chair, his fingers tapping the edge of his plate, eyes darting to Kayla, then back to his food. He sensed something off but stayed quiet, his lawyer instincts not sharp enough to call the bluff. Really? Kayla said, her smile thin, almost dangerous. That's a big loan to swing. She let the words hang, baiting the trap wider. Beatrice laughed, a brittle sound that carried across the room. Big, it's nothing for us. We know how to play the game, unlike some people who think flipping condos is a career. The table beside them went quiet, forks pausing as the tension bled outward. A woman in her 50s, hair pulled into a sleek bun, passed by on her way to the bar. She caught Kayla's eye and offered a quick nod, the kind reserved for someone who'd changed lives. Kayla knew her Evelyn Tate, the neighbor whose daughter got a full ride to art school last year, courtesy of Kayla's scholarship fund. Evelyn's glance held weight, a silent salute to the woman who'd bankrolled it without fanfare. Beatrice missed it too, busy slicing her salmon with precision, her smirk unshaken. "You must be proud," Kayla said, voice still, even nudging the conversation deeper into the trap. "A house like that screams success." Courtney snorted, her earrings flashing. "Success you wouldn't know, Kayla. Bet you're still dodging landlords." Jordan coughed, mumbling about the risotto, but his hands stayed busy folding his napkin into tight squares. The air at the table thickened, every word a step closer to the edge. Beatrice raised her glass, her eyes glinting with triumph. "To living well? Something you learn when you stop chasing pipe dreams." The toast was a blade aimed straight at Kayla, who sipped her water and let the moment simmer. Evelyn lingered near the bar, her gaze flicking back, sensing the storm about to break. The dessert cart rolled up at 8:30, laden with tiramisu and panna cotta, catching every eye in the restaurant. Ronan set a single plate before Kayla, a chocolate tart dusted with cocoa not on the menu. "From the chef, your usual," he said, voice low but clear enough for the table to catch. Beatrice raised an eyebrow, her fork pausing midair. "What, you know the kitchen staff now? Some freelancer perk?" Her tone was sharp, slicing through the hum of nearby chatter. Courtney smirked, swirling her wine. "Probably begged for scraps." Jordan's eyes flicked to Kayla, sensing a shift, but staying silent, his fingers gripping his napkin. Before Kayla could respond, a man in a crisp navy suit strode through the dining room, his silver hair catching the light. Garrett Hale, the real estate attorney who'd brokered her deals for years, moved with the confidence of someone who owned the room or knew who did. He ignored a waving couple at another table, heading straight for Kayla. "Boss," he said, voice warm, as he wrapped her in a quick, firm hug. "Didn't know you'd grace us tonight." The word hit like a thunderclap. Boss Beatrice's wine glass trembled, nearly spilling. Courtney's mouth fell open, her earrings still. Jordan leaned forward, eyes wide. Garrett pulled a chair from a nearby table, settling in without asking. "Your daughter loaned us $100,000 last year when our Ballard project was drowning in bad debt," he said, looking at Beatrice. "She restructured the leases, cut costs, flipped the numbers, saved our necks. Now she owns 55% of the whole deal, worth about $2.5 million. The restaurant's buzz faded, diners craning to listen. Beatrice's face drained of color, her hand clutching the table's edge. "That's impossible," she stammered. Courtney blinked, speechless, her wine forgotten. Garrett chuckled, unfazed. "Impossible? She's been outpacing half the brokers in Seattle." A woman approached Evelyn Tate, the neighbor from earlier. "Kayla, I didn't want to interrupt, but thank you again for the scholarship. My daughter's at art school because of you." Her voice carried, drawing more eyes. Another figure stepped forward, a man in his 40s with a tech CEO's polish, Victor Lang, whose startup Kayla had bailed out last spring. "Your investment kept my company afloat," he said, nodding to her. "Turned our red books black in 6 months." Beatrice's fork clattered to her plate. Courtney stared, her jaw still slack. Jordan's voice broke the silence, barely a whisper. "You did all this?" Kayla met his gaze, her expression calm but unyielding. "You never asked what I was building." The room felt smaller, the air heavy with the weight of truths unspoken for years. The air at the table turned brittle as Kayla leaned forward, her water glass untouched, eyes locked on her family at 9 sharp. "I'm pulling the plug on that $100,000 I loaned for your house," she said, voice cold as steel, each word slicing through the restaurant's fading chatter. "It's 100% of your mortgage's down payment. Time to collect." Beatrice's face went ashen, her wine glass hitting the table with a clink that echoed. "That's not possible," she stammered, her usual swagger gone. Courtney's jaw tightened, her fingers digging into the tablecloth. "You, the Honda driver. You don't have that kind of cash." Jordan's eyes darted to Kayla, his voice a hoarse whisper. "You're the lender." Kayla didn't flinch, her gaze steady. "You never bothered to check the paperwork, did you?" She pulled out her phone, opened the app Garrett had prepped that morning, and tapped the screen. The foreclosure demand letter loaded, her signature swiping across it in seconds. "Sent," she said, voice flat. 30 days, Washington law. Eviction notice starts now. The table froze, forks stilled at nearby booths, diners openly staring. Beatrice shook her head, her voice rising. "This is a lie." "You're bluffing," Courtney chimed in, desperate. "You're just some freelancer scraping by." Before Kayla could respond, her phone buzzed, a video call from her cousin, a lean guy in his late 20s, who'd been in her corner since the start. "Kayla, tell me you finally dropped the bomb," he said, his face filling the screen. She turned it to the table. "Go ahead, Spencer Quill. She's worth $2.5 million. Spencer said, his voice clear, cutting through the room. "Flipped houses, bankrolled startups, funded scholarships while you all laughed at her. That loan, she could have called it in months ago." Beatrice's hand shook, spilling wine across her plate. Courtney's face flushed, her career's shine suddenly dim. Jordan looked down, muttering, "I should have asked what you were doing." Kayla set the phone down, her signature already filed through Garrett's app, locking the foreclosure in motion. The dominoes fell fast. Beatrice's real estate reputation, built on borrowed cash, would crumble when the default hit public records. Courtney's marketing job, tied to Mom's network, would take a hit as clients distanced themselves. Jordan, the least cruel, might scrape by, forced to stand on his own. In 30 seconds, their world shifted. Kayla stood her chair, scraping softly, the sound louder than any shout. "You thought I was nothing," she said, eyes on Beatrice. "Now you've got nothing to stand on." The restaurant watched, breathless, as the weight of her words sank in. Kayla stood at 9:30, her chair barely scraping the floor, her voice steady as she faced the shattered table. "We're done," she said, eyes locked on Beatrice. "No more games." Beatrice lurched forward, her wine-stained napkin crumpling in her fist. "Family doesn't walk away," she snapped, voice cracking loud enough to hush nearby tables. Courtney's face twisted, her earrings catching the light as she leaned in. "You can't just ditch us." Jordan stayed seated, his hands folded, eyes fixed on the table like he was piecing together a lost case. Kayla's gaze didn't waver. "Family doesn't evict their own for sport," she said, each word a quiet blade. "You did that to yourselves." She turned, striding through the restaurant diners, parting like a silent honor guard. Outside, the Seattle rain fell in sheets, soaking Beatrice, Courtney, and Jordan as they stumbled after her to the curb. The valet pulled up her Audi, sleek midnight black, a birthday gift she'd bought herself last year. She took the keys, her movements calm, final. Beatrice called out, "Kayla, wait," but the plea drowned in the downpour. 2 months later, the foreclosure hit. Beatrice moved into a budget motel off Aurora Avenue, her real estate contacts gone quiet, her reputation sunk by public default records. Courtney's marketing gigs dried up, clients didn't trust a name tied to financial ruin. Jordan, scraping by, took a job at a smaller firm, finally standing on his own, but cut off from the family's old network. Kayla settled into her penthouse overlooking Elliott Bay, papers spread for a new housing project, affordable units for artists, her next move. Her phone buzzed, Jordan's voicemail. "Kayla, I'm sorry, I should have seen you, not their lies." She listened, then deleted it, no reply. "Toxic ties only break you if you let them hold. In America, one bad loan can strip everything: house, status, pride. I cut loose, built my own empire from the ground up. Don't wait for blind eyes to see your worth. Build anyway."
"Is that a new Mercedes?" I stood in my driveway, staring at my sister Laura as she stepped out of a gleaming black SUV that probably cost more than my annual salary. Just last week, she'd told me she was still too financially stretched to start repaying the money she'd borrowed. "Oh, this?" Laura ran her hand along the car's pristine hood. "Just got it yesterday. Great lease deal. You wouldn't believe the features it has." My name is Rachel Sullivan, and at 32, I was watching my sister flaunt a luxury car while the $45,000 I'd lent her a year ago sat unpaid. Money that had come from my house down payment fund. Money I'd saved over years of careful budgeting and overtime work at my graphic design firm. "I thought you were in financial trouble," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "That's why you needed to borrow money, remember? To avoid bankruptcy?" Laura waved her hand dismissively. "I still am. This is different. It's just a lease. Besides, I needed something reliable for work." I remembered the day she'd shown up at my door in tears, mascara running down her face, how she'd sobbed about mounting credit card debt, about possibly losing her house, about needing help, just this once. I'd written the check that same day, draining most of my savings because that's what sisters do. They help each other. "Your old car was only 3 years old," I pointed out, "and you promised to start repaying me after 6 months. Don't be so uptight, Rachel. You're doing fine. You've always been good with money. It's not like you really need it right now anyway." She pulled out her phone, checking her reflection in its screen. "Oh, did I tell you I'm planning a trip to Europe this summer? You should come, though it might be a bit expensive for you." I stood there speechless. The casual way she dismissed my loan, the implicit suggestion that being good with money somehow meant I didn't deserve to be repaid, the audacity of inviting me on an expensive vacation while owing me thousands, it all hit me at once. "Actually, I do need the money," I said. "I'd planned to use it for a house down payment." "Well, maybe this is a sign you should keep renting. Property ownership is so much responsibility." She glanced at her watch. "Anyway, I can't stay. I've got a spa appointment. We should do lunch soon." As I watched her drive away in her brand new Mercedes, something inside me snapped. A year of excuses, deflections, and broken promises crystallized into a moment of clarity. My sister wasn't just bad with money. She was taking advantage of me, and I'd let her do it. The pattern was nothing new. Growing up, Laura had always been the charming one, able to talk her way into, or out of, anything. When she maxed out her first credit card at 19, my parents paid it off. When she dropped out of college after 3 expensive semesters, they called it finding her path. Every financial disaster was met with support, understanding, and usually a check. I'd taken a different route, working through college, building my graphic design career from internships up, saving carefully. My parents called me the responsible one, but the way they said it made it sound boring, like being good with money was somehow less impressive than Laura's endless string of exciting mistakes. That evening, I pulled up my bank statements, looking at the sharp drop in my savings from a year ago. I'd had almost $60,000 saved, enough for a decent down payment in our area. Now, thanks to Laura, I was back to renting a small apartment while watching my sister cruise around in a luxury car. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Laura just showed us her new car. Isn't it gorgeous? She said she got an amazing deal." Of course she had. Laura always got amazing deals that somehow left her broke. I thought about telling my mom about the unpaid loan, but I already knew how that conversation would go. "She's going through a rough time," my mom would say. "You know how hard things have been for her since the divorce." Laura's divorce had been 3 years ago, but it was still her get-out-of-responsibility-free card. Never mind that her ex-husband had left her with a paid-off house and a generous settlement. Somehow she'd burned through all of it while maintaining her expensive lifestyle. I opened my email, finding Laura's desperate message from a year ago. "I promise I'll pay you back in 6 months, tops. You're my only hope, Rachel. I could lose everything. I know it's a lot to ask, but you've always been so good with money. Please help me. I'll never forget this." Below that were months of follow-up emails, each with a different excuse for why she couldn't start repaying me yet. Car repairs. Property taxes. A leaky roof. Yet somehow she'd had money for regular salon visits, weekend trips, and now a brand new Mercedes. My computer pinged with a new email, Laura sending photos of her car to the whole family. "New beginnings," she wrote. "Sometimes you have to invest in yourself." Invest in yourself. With my money. Money that was supposed to be investing in my future, in my dreams of home ownership. I closed my laptop, my hands shaking with anger. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about respect, about family, about being taken for granted. The next day, I started gathering evidence. Every email, every text message, every bank transfer, I documented it all. My graphic design training came in handy as I created a detailed timeline of Laura's promises and excuses. The pattern was almost laughable. Urgent pleas for help followed by months of evasion, sprinkled with casual mentions of her latest splurges. I even found the napkin where she'd scribbled her repayment plan that day in my kitchen. 6 months tops, she'd written, complete with monthly payment amounts she'd never made. I'd kept it, thinking it might matter later. Now it sat in my growing file of broken promises. My phone buzzed with another text from Laura. "Hey sis, some friends are planning a spa weekend next month. You should come. We could do a payment plan for your share." I stared at the message in disbelief. She was inviting me to spend money on a spa weekend while sitting on $45,000 of my savings. The sheer audacity of it made my blood boil. That evening, my cousin Jenny called. "I saw Laura's new car on Instagram," she said cautiously. "Isn't that the same sister who borrowed your house down payment?" "The very same," I replied. "Rachel," Jenny's voice turned serious. "You need to do something. This isn't okay. My husband's a lawyer. He keeps saying you should have gotten something in writing." She was right, of course. I'd trusted family instead of protecting myself, but it wasn't too late to fix that mistake. "You know what will happen," Jenny warned. "The whole family will say you're being harsh. They'll tell you to be understanding because she's going through a hard time." "She's been going through a hard time since high school," I said. "Meanwhile, I'm the one living in a one-bedroom apartment because my savings are sitting in her driveway." After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started researching small claims court procedures. The maximum claim amount in our state would cover most of what Laura owed me. I also found templates for formal demand letters, the first step in legal proceedings. My hands shook as I typed Laura's name into the template. This would change everything. No more family dinners pretending everything was fine. No more playing the understanding sister while watching Laura spend my money. No more being the family ATM. But as I looked around my small apartment, at the life I'd put on hold to help her, I felt my resolve strengthen. Laura had chosen her priorities when she bought that Mercedes. Now it was time for me to choose mine. I sent the demand letter by certified mail, keeping the receipt as another piece of evidence. 3 days later, Laura burst into my apartment unannounced, waving the letter. "Are you serious with this legal garbage?" she shouted. "I'm your sister. You can't sue your own sister." I kept my voice steady. "You've had a year to handle this like sisters. Now we're handling it like adults who made a financial agreement." "I can't believe you're being so cold about money. It's just money. Family is more important." She collapsed onto my couch, already starting the waterworks that had worked so well last time. "Yes, family is important," I agreed. "So important that I gave you my house down payment when you needed help. So important that I trusted you to keep your word. How's that working out?" "You know I've been struggling." "Not too much struggle for a new Mercedes," I cut in. "Or those designer boots you're wearing. Or that European vacation you're planning." Laura's tears dried up instantly, replaced by anger. "You're just jealous because I know how to enjoy life while you pinch pennies and obsess over spreadsheets." "No, I'm angry because you took advantage of me. Because you promised to repay me and instead spent my money on luxury cars and spa weekends." "Fine." She stood up, grabbing her designer purse. "Take me to court. See how Mom and Dad feel about that. They already think you're too materialistic, always talking about saving and investments." "You mean being responsible?" "Yeah, how terrible of me." As she stormed out, my phone lit up with texts from our parents. Laura had obviously called them immediately. "Mom, why are you threatening your sister? She's family." "Dad, let's talk about this. No need for lawyers." I took a deep breath and typed out a group message. Laura borrowed $45,000 a year ago, promising to repay it in 6 months. Yesterday, she bought a new Mercedes instead of paying me back. I'm done being taken advantage of. The responses came quickly. Mom, she needed that car for work. Dad, maybe we can work out a payment plan. Laura, I can't believe you're telling everyone about this. Private family matters should stay private. I laughed out loud at that last one. Private family matters. Like the Mercedes she'd plastered all over social media? Like the European vacation she'd been bragging about? Private or public, the money is still owed, I replied. You have 30 days to respond to the demand letter. After that, I'm filing in small claims court. The next family dinner was a battlefield. My mom had insisted we all come over to work things out as a family, but it was clear whose side she was on. She'd even made Laura's favorite meal, as if pasta would somehow make me forget about $45,000. I just don't understand why you're being so aggressive about this, my mom said, passing the garlic bread. Laura's going through... If you say a rough time one more time, I'm leaving, I interrupted. She's been going through a rough time for 15 years. Meanwhile, she's driving a car that costs more than what she owes me. That's different, Laura protested. The car is an investment in my career. I need to project success. You know what projects success? I pulled out my folder of documents. Paying your debts, being trustworthy, not stealing your sister's house down payment. Stealing? Laura gasped. I borrowed it. You agreed. You borrowed it with specific promises that you broke. That's called fraud. My dad, who'd been quietly eating his pasta, finally spoke up. Maybe we could help. Your mother and I could contribute something. No. I set down my fork. This isn't about the family helping Laura out of another mess. This is about Laura facing consequences for once in her life. But we're family, my mom insisted. Family helps each other. Really? Where was this family helps each other philosophy when I needed a roommate after college? Laura had that big empty house, but you said I needed to learn independence. Laura rolled her eyes. That was different. Yes, it was different. Because it was me needing help instead of you. Everything's different when it's me. So, you've always been so good at handling things on your own, my mom started. That's not a punishment, Mom. Being responsible shouldn't mean I'm less deserving of consideration, of respect, of having my sister keep her word. The silence that followed was deafening. My mom looked close to tears. My dad studied his plate, and Laura just looked angry, like I was the one who had betrayed her. I'm filing in small claims court next week, I said, standing up. You can either start taking this seriously, or you can explain to a judge why you bought a luxury car instead of repaying your debt. If you do this, Laura warned, it will change everything. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The designer clothes, the perfectly manicured nails, the entitled attitude that our family had carefully nurtured for years. Everything already changed, I replied. It changed the day you decided your Mercedes was more important than your word. True to her word, Laura rallied the extended family against me. Aunts called to tell me I was being unreasonable. Cousins sent messages about family loyalty. Even my grandmother weighed in, saying she was disappointed in my choices. I saved all their messages in my legal file. Each one proved how Laura had weaponized the family against me, turning my attempt to get repaid into an act of betrayal. Only Cousin Jenny stood by me, sending daily texts of support and updates from her lawyer husband about what to expect in court. A week before the court date, my parents made one last attempt at intervention. They invited me over, and I found Laura there too, sitting at the kitchen table like we were kids about to be disciplined. We have a proposal, my dad said, pulling out his checkbook. We'll pay half of what Laura owes you. You can drop the court case, and we can put this whole ugly business behind us. That's very generous of you, I replied. But no, this isn't about you fixing Laura's mess again. It's about Laura facing consequences. I could lose my car, Laura burst out. They might repossess it if I have to pay you back all at once. You should have thought about that before buying it with my money. It wasn't your money anymore. I borrowed it. That's not how loans work, Laura. You don't just get to decide you're keeping it. My mom started crying. Please, Rachel. This is tearing our family apart. No, Mom. Laura's actions tore this family apart. I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen. But she's your sister, my dad tried again. Yes, she is. And as my sister, she should have respected me enough to keep her word. To not buy luxury cars while owing me money. To not treat me like a bank that doesn't need to be repaid. Laura stood up suddenly. Fine. You want to destroy this family over money? Go ahead. But don't expect me to ever forgive you. I watched her storm out, remembering all the times I'd seen this same performance. The dramatic exits, the tears, the guilt trips. They'd always worked before. The family would rush to soothe Laura, to fix things for Laura, to make excuses for Laura. Not this time. I'll see you in court, I called after her. Then I turned to my parents. And if you try to pay her debt for her, I'll name you as co-defendants for attempting to obstruct justice. My dad's face went pale. My mom's tears stopped abruptly. For the first time, they looked at me not as the reliable daughter they could take for granted, but as someone capable of standing her ground. The morning of court, I arrived early, dressed in my most professional outfit and carrying my carefully organized file of evidence. Jenny came with me for support, while her husband had helped me prepare my presentation to the judge. Laura showed up late, of course. She breezed in, wearing designer clothes and carrying a new handbag that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Our parents sat behind her, looking uncomfortable in the small claims courtroom. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who listened carefully as I presented my evidence: the original bank transfer, Laura's written promises, the timeline of excuses, and photos of her recent purchases, including the Mercedes. When it was Laura's turn to speak, she tried her usual tactics. She cried. She talked about family loyalty. She mentioned her divorce from 3 years ago. She explained how the car was a necessity for her real estate career. The judge wasn't moved. Ms. Sullivan, she addressed Laura, are you telling me you purchased a luxury vehicle while owing your sister $45,000? It's just a lease, Laura protested, and I needed it for work. That's not what I asked. Did you buy a new car instead of repaying your sister? Well, yes, but... And these vacation photos posted on your social media last month? Was this trip necessary for work as well? Laura shifted uncomfortably. No, but... Ms. Sullivan, this court takes a very dim view of individuals who demonstrate such blatant disregard for their financial obligations. Your sister provided substantial evidence of both the loan and your ability to repay it, had you chosen to do so. I watched Laura's face as she realized her usual manipulations weren't working. The judge wasn't family. She couldn't be swayed by tears or guilt trips or claims of hard times. Furthermore, the judge continued, your social media posts suggest a pattern of frivolous spending while actively avoiding your debt. This court finds in favor of the plaintiff. You are ordered to repay the full amount of $45,000 within 90 days. 90 days? Laura gasped. That's impossible. I don't have that kind of money. Perhaps you should consider selling your new car, the judge suggested dryly. Next case. In the hallway afterward, Laura lunged at me. Happy now? You've ruined everything. You ruined it, I replied calmly. You ruined it when you decided your luxury lifestyle was more important than your integrity. My parents hovered nearby, looking lost. They'd never seen Laura face real consequences before. They'd never seen me stand up to her like this. We could help with the payments, my dad started to offer. Don't you dare, I cut him off. She got herself into this mess with her choices. She can get herself out the same way. As I walked out of the courthouse with Jenny, I felt lighter than I had in months. The money mattered, yes, but this was about more than that. It was about standing up for myself, about refusing to be taken advantage of, about finally breaking the family pattern of enabling Laura's behavior. The aftermath of the court case rippled through our family like a tidal wave. Laura had to surrender her Mercedes to pay part of her debt to me. She posted dramatic social media updates about betrayal and the price of trusting family. but notably turned off the comments when people started asking questions about what actually happened. My parents struggled to adjust to the new family dynamic. My mom kept trying to play peacemaker, inviting us both to dinner as if nothing had happened. When I declined, she switched to calling me daily with updates about how difficult things were for Laura. She had to cancel her Europe trip, my mom said one evening, and she's looking for a smaller apartment. Don't you think that's punishment enough? That's not punishment, Mom. That's living within her means like everyone else has to do. But she's so embarrassed at work, having to drive her old car again. You mean the perfectly good 3-year-old Audi she had before? The horror. After the first month, Laura had repaid about half of what she owed me, mostly from selling her new car and some designer items. She made sure everyone knew about each payment, acting like she was donating a kidney instead of returning borrowed money. Then came the family reunion. Our aunt hosted it every year, and this time I decided to go. I wasn't going to let Laura's drama keep me from family traditions. When I arrived, the whispers started immediately. Some relatives avoided me completely. Others cornered me to share their opinions about how I should have handled things more privately. But something unexpected happened too. My younger cousins started asking me for financial advice. My Aunt Susan quietly mentioned that my stand had given her the courage to stop lending money to her gambling-addicted son. Even my Uncle George, who'd initially criticized me for going to court, admitted that his own daughter had started repaying a loan after hearing about Laura's case. Sometimes family needs tough love, he said, patting my shoulder. Took me too long to learn that lesson myself. The real surprise came from my dad. He pulled me aside during the reunion, looking uncomfortable but determined. I've been thinking, he said. Your mother and I, we didn't do Laura any favors over the years, or you for that matter. We expected too little from her and too much from you. Dad? No, let me finish. Watching you stand your ground, even when everyone was against you, it made me realize how much we've enabled her behavior, and how unfair we've been to you. He pulled out an envelope. This isn't to pay her debt. This is different. Your mother and I, we helped Laura with a down payment when she bought her house. We should have done the same for you. It's not the full amount, but it's a start. I looked at the check. It was for $25,000. Not just money, but acknowledgement, recognition, respect. Thanks, Dad, I said, blinking back tears. This means a lot. 6 months after the court case, Laura finally made the last payment. She transferred the money without a word, but posted a vague social media message about closing difficult chapters and moving forward. Our mutual friends told me she'd started seeing a financial advisor and was actually sticking to a budget for the first time in her life. My mom still struggled with the change in our family dynamic. She kept trying to orchestrate reconciliation opportunities, unable to accept that sometimes relationships need to stay broken to heal properly. But my dad had become an unexpected ally, shutting down her attempts to guilt me into making peace. The money went straight into my house fund, and with my dad's additional help, I finally had enough for a down payment. The day I closed on my new home, I thought about how different everything was from a year ago. I'd lost the easy relationship with my sister, the blind support of some family members, the role of reliable peacekeeper I'd played for so long. But I'd gained something more valuable, self-respect, the knowledge that I could stand up for myself, even when it was difficult, even when it hurt, even when everyone expected me to give in, like always. Jenny helped me move into my new place, and as we unpacked boxes, she handed me a framed quote she'd designed herself, putting her own graphic design skills to work. It read, "Sometimes the highest price of peace is your self-respect." I hung it in my home office, a reminder of lessons learned and boundaries earned. At my housewarming party, I watched my transformed family dynamics play out in real time. Laura didn't come, but she'd sent a card, store-bought, with a simple congratulations and her signature. No fake sentiments, no dramatic statements, just acknowledgement from a safe distance. My parents came early to help set up. My mom still looked sad when she mentioned Laura's absence, but she didn't push the issue. My dad took me aside to show me a spreadsheet he'd made to track his own expenses. He'd finally started managing the family finances instead of letting them spiral out of control. Cousin Jenny brought her famous lasagna and a bottle of champagne. "To new beginnings," she said, "and to standing your ground." Other relatives who'd initially criticized me now asked about my experience buying a home, some even admitting they wished they'd been stricter with their own family lending. The house wasn't as luxurious as the one I might have bought a year ago, before Laura's loan drained my savings. But it was mine, earned through hard work and protected by newfound strength. Each room represented not just my financial investment, but my investment in myself. Later that evening, I found a quiet moment to sit on my new back porch, listening to the happy chatter from inside. A year ago, I'd been the family peacekeeper, the reliable one who would sacrifice anything to keep everyone happy. Now I was something else, something stronger, clearer, more defined. Sometimes family bonds have to break to reset properly. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is hold someone accountable. And sometimes losing what you thought you needed helps you find what you actually deserve.